Hi there, welcome back to Confinement Stories. I hope you're well and keeping safe. You're going to love this conversation. I just spoke to my friend Andy, who is from Orlando in Florida, and we talked about a number of things you can imagine, from homeschooling to paddleboarding to adapting business and life to what is happening currently. Why he did 500 push-ups. I did ask the questions, but importantly, we discussed why you should focus on what you can control. After this. So, Andy, welcome to Confinement Stories.
Pascal, thank you so much. And thank you for having me on. It is an honor to be invited to speak with you.
Listen, I want to start with two important questions for our audience, listeners and viewers. Where are you and how are you doing?
Well, I am in Orlando, Florida, USA, so Southeast United States, and I am doing great. I have many challenges in my life, like we all do, right? Different versions of what's going on in the world. But I like to keep a positive mindset about things, an opportunistic and optimistic mindset about things. And I'm having a pretty great day so far. And I'm excited to be talking to you.
Well, thank you very much. Now, I think you're naturally wired to be positive.
True.
Bear in mind the work that you do and everything you do. What was interesting is 2 weeks into our lockdown in the UK. I'll come back to ask how it's going in the US. Facebook was good enough to push one of your posts, and what the post was about, you may remember, was you giving a short video message, and you talked about focus on what you can control.
Mm,
And the timing was impeccable. I mean, it's rare for Facebook and LinkedIn to put stuff at the right time for the right
right,
people. We may
right.
have
The algorithm worked.
for this one, and I thought, you know what, the timing was good because I was starting to kind of flounder a bit, and just wondered, what was the motivation between for you to share that very simple, powerful message?
Yeah, well, thank you. And I'm so glad you saw that. Sometimes you put these things out there, you don't know who's going to see it. If you're a content creator like us, sometimes you worry about the judgment and who's going to look at that and go, "Oh, you're stupid" or whatever. But the thing that always keeps me going is like, I know there's at least one person out there that needs this message, right? And I hope it gets to that person. So I did a series of my own kind of top 10 tips for surviving and thriving in coronavirus that I did for my podcast, and I put some of the videos on social media, and it was all mostly mindset stuff and taking care of your health and your mind and your body, and not worrying as much. It wasn't about wearing a mask and washing your hands. Those things are good too. Focus on what's in your control is something that I try to live by, outside of these times. And I think it's especially important in these times because a lot of us are bombarded by news, right, of what's going on out in the world, what's our government, what are our politicians doing. You see the numbers and think, it can be scary. There's a lot of people getting sick or dying or losing jobs or whatever. There's a lot of scary and bad things going on. But most of those things we hear about are outside of our control. There's nothing we can do about it. And therefore, I find it, I mean, this is easier said than done, but it's kind of like pointless to sit around worrying about those things, right? And we get that worry from watching the news and doing the things that are going to cause us to worry. That's the point of the news. So I try to avoid those things. It's the same thing in regular times. If you don't like a politician, stop worrying so much about what that politician is doing or the government is doing, and spend more time worrying about your own life and what you can control. And so for me, that's my personal health, my personal development, my family, providing for my family, my wife and kids, and of course my business that I run. Communicating with my clients, and then of course friends, people in my circle. There are a lot of things within my control, and I find that even if those things are not going my way, because things don't go perfectly, right? I've got a lot of clients that are not, engaged with me right now, doing work right now. But even when things don't go as well as I'd like, I'm a lot more fulfilled because at least I'm doing work on things that I know I have control over versus spending a lot of time worrying about things that I can't control. Because to me, that's like the root of anxiety and stress because you can't do anything about it.
No, you're right. And interestingly, at the very same time as seeing the message and having to essentially make peace with the fact that the plans that we had, so some of those plans, Andy, included me spending more time in France with my family, working on some film project, all those plans that, was going to make the next few weeks and months really exciting. I had to, it was almost like a breakup, right? You had to let them go and then start with a new relationship with, what you do. If you have some special guests, bring them in. That's absolutely fine, Andy. This
Okay, good.
this is this is a family show. This
I
is a
can't
family.
stop them.
I have to tell you those pictures of your two. We'll talk about paddle boarding as well in a moment. But so for me, it was almost like having to break up with a set of relationships and project and starting a new one, which includes, for example, having to be satisfied that for now, a trip to France and see my family is not on the cards whatsoever. So what else can you do? And like you, once I kind of filled my week with other projects and more creative endeavors, the days are going so quickly. And that's been really quite interesting, because when it all began, I was worried about boredom, and it's been anything but that.
Sorry, I missed that last
Mm.
question. My son just stole my keyboard.
No, I was just
Oh.
supplementing what you were saying about this idea of, once you work on what you can control, your days and your weeks are actually quite fulfilling and rich in activities.
Um, sorry, you changed the setting on my speaker. It just came back, so now I hear you. I'm so sorry.
That's quite
What
all
was
right.
one more time?
So who's behind us anyway, or who's behind you, should I say?
So I have two kids. I have a 6-year-old named Lucy, and behind me is my 4-year-old son named Teddy. And they, while I try to set some boundaries with, hey, daddy's on an important call here and there, I'm just not very good at it. They don't listen, so they just come and go. But what I have found that's very interesting, I do a lot of client work with, people in different companies all over the world, and I'm on Zoom calls all the time. And it's interesting that now that everybody's working from home, this has sort of become normal. So I've been, working from home on Zoom, doing video calls for years, since it
Hmm.
started 5, 6 years ago. And there was kind of that, like, oh no, keep the kids out, reduce noises, that sort of thing. Always embarrassing. I'm doing an interview, get really embarrassed if they interrupt. But now it's kind of like, whatever, they're walking in, everybody's got kids and dogs in the background while they're trying to work. And it's just kind of the new normal. So actually, one of the things I think that's really cool, there's a lot of silver linings on all of this, the pandemic, right? That I thought we might discuss some of them. But
Hmm.
one of them is, I think it's a greater connection to the humanity of who we all are. There's so many people out there in the working world that were kind of keeping their work self and their personal self separate. And I think a lot of people are like getting to know their colleagues and who they truly are, and what they are like at home, and seeing their kids and pets come into the screen. And so I think that's kind of cool. I hope that is helping us all become more personable and more connected in a way.
Absolutely. I mean, I know that I had one of my colleagues was doing a webinar, and literally the dog jumped on her laps halfway through a sentence. The dog just appeared in view, and here was the dog on her knees, and we all burst into laughter. So leave the dog, carry on, So
Yeah, why not? Exactly.
So yeah, you're absolutely right. The series that you kindly taking part in is all about looking at the positives. And one thing that's been really interesting is to see how individuals have essentially given to the community, how small traders and retailers have also come up with some clever ways to do their service with the limitations of lockdown and social distancing. From where you are in Orlando, I think it'd be fascinating for our audience. What are the kind of the stories or anecdotes you have of individuals and businesses just trying their utmost to still serve their customers and the likes.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if it's too different from the rest of the world. I think restaurants are trying to do the best they can to stay open and serve through takeout. You see businesses getting creative and doing, order online and curbside pickup and things like that. And, some of them seem to be doing very well. Others maybe not so much. I hear about a lot of creative deals being offered. But also, quite frankly, even though I do leave my house every day and take my kids to the park every day, we're not going out to too many, restaurants, stores, businesses. But one thing I have seen that's very interesting, especially being very into like the outdoors and health and fitness, as I am, I take my kids out for walks, and there's a park about a 10-minute walk from us. That's kind of the central park here in Orlando. And it's always a very popular park anyway. And I take my kids there all the time to go to the playground, and now the playground's closed. But now I take them there after work around 6 o'clock in the evening, and it is so crowded with people doing their exercise. People bring dumbbells and weights and ropes and all kinds of things. It's like a variable gym out there in the park, and I just think it's cool to see that people are like not letting this hold them back from their health and fitness, and they're getting out there, and most of them are kind of keeping their distance, but there's small groups of people who know each other, and they're all working out together. And I take my kids with me and go work out there as well. And I just always think it's fun to see, and it's kind of motivating too. You see these people, most of them are a little younger than me, just going at it. I'm 40, and they're mostly in their 20s and 30s, right? But going out there, going at it hard out there, working out, and you're like, okay, all right, no excuse, right? And that's why I post a lot of my workout stuff on social media too, because I want to continue to inspire people. I know there's always excuses, right? And we are in the most challenging of times to take care of your health or anything else, with kids being at home and the gyms being closed and schedules being crazy. But I want to inspire people to continue to take care of their health. And so that's why I share a lot of that stuff too.
No, it is great because it creates a nice balance in terms of the content you do. Um, did you really do 500 push-ups?
Yeah. So this is another. I love social media, and I love how like that post brought us together. I've got a friend named Sean Washburn who I've never met in person. Right, he's a Facebook friend up in Cleveland, USA, and he posted in this group we're in about doing a push-up challenge, and he had created a spreadsheet. And so I was like, all right, game on. And so I challenged myself to see how many I could do, and I ended up doing 500 in one day. I posted about that. I did 500 again the next day, and I think again recently, and then I had 550 on Monday. So I'm just like, trying to up that. I'm up to, I think, 300 today so far, and we'll see where the day takes us. But then on the sheet, we've got all these other people posting their numbers, and we're all in different places, right? We're all in different spots on our journeys with different capabilities. But it's cool to see how other people are challenging themselves, getting out of their comfort zone and improving just because of the kind of social aspect of this, the accountability to see like, oh, I've got to put my number on the spreadsheet, and so-and-so over there did 5 today, and I'm going to try to do 6, wherever you are on the spectrum. Some people can only do 5, some people can do 500. You just try to beat yourself yesterday.
So do you do them in groups of tens or fifties? How did you? I mean, you didn't do them in one go, and you must have been so sore. She just.
I am feeling a little bit sore. The thing about push-ups, you can do them almost every day. I took Sunday off, but I typically do them in sets of like 25 to 50. So that day was a lot of 25s and then a few 50s, I think, to get to 500 for that post you saw.
So, have there been some, family activities, either new ones or one that you used to do that become, a nice something to look forward to during the week?
Yeah, one of the biggest, and when I'm on other calls asking people about silver linings, talking about the silver linings of this, because I think there always is. One of the biggest for me is my main business is in training and development for big companies. I run in-person workshops. Therefore, I travel a lot. Normally, I'm on planes a lot, and I love being with my family. And so I've been home consistently for the last 2 months, and it's been really nice to be home with the family. Certainly, there are challenging times, but that's been great. So we've done a lot of different things. We've got a playground for the backyard because we didn't have one before. We would just go to the city park, but that's closed. And we found a neighbor who donated one to us, and we got a handyman to put it together. So that was really nice. We've been playing different games at home, doing a lot of puzzles. We go out and do workouts together. I also got very lucky, I guess, that I was gifted something that I really had been wanting for a long time in March, right before this, which is a stand-up paddleboard,
I
something that I had been
know. I'm
wanting
so
forever.
envious. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome, and I've been like kind of pining after one. I don't know what the right word is, but wanting one for a long time and not being willing to spend the money. And then I got a gift, a very nice gift from the company I work with, and it was perfect timing because with everything else being closed, and I live in Florida, which is surrounded by water. There's water everywhere, and the weather is pretty warm. So I've started taking that out every weekend and some weekdays as well. And I take the kids, and they don't always want to go, but I make them go with me anyway. And it's created some great bonding time. It's created a great opportunity for us to get outside and be with nature. And, there's a few other people around out on a lake or a river, but everybody's kind of distancing, right? It's social distancing. It's very easy to do. And, the rivers and lakes don't close.
No, absolutely. Do you know, I did consider that activity for a while, but when I was in France, we used to live in the southwest of France. We used to go surfing a lot
Oh,
with
nice.
my brothers. So I felt like the paddle boarding was just was going to be nowhere near as interesting and exciting. And I thought, well, it's for all people. Then I realized that I'm getting older, so maybe it's perfect timing. I very nearly had to go during the holidays because we were away on holiday with my wife. We were celebrating our 20th wedding anniversary
Nice.
when it all started. And
Wow.
we believe that we caught the very last flight into Newcastle upon Tyne, where we live in the UK. I mean,
Yeah.
literally, when we arrived, the airport was empty. It was the most
Wow.
surreal feeling of an empty airport, if you've ever been there. And
Yeah.
even the
Crazy.
lights were off. I mean, it was just really, really quite strange. So when we arrived, we self-isolated for 2 weeks to be on the safe side. But it was one thing that was available in a resort where we were staying, and I thought I should have had a go. But when I saw your photos on Facebook, I went, yeah. So even more reason to give it a go.
And now
But
you may not be able to get one. I looked the other day because I need a new trailer for my bike, because I have I do go on bike rides and I take my kids in the trailer, and things like that are all sold out because people are just buying up the things
really,
that you can do,
uh,
without going places. It's interesting.
do you know what's also sold out entirely? I'm judging from Amazon, UK.
Right.
So I've been advising many of my clients to switch, to video calls, meetings, webinars,
Yeah.
and so on, as you and I have done. So
Yes.
they're asking me for a kit list. So I thought,
Right.
leave it to me. I'll go on Amazon and put some links for you.
Yeah.
Everything is sold out. So all the gear that I want to
Wow.
recommend to them, the microphones and this and the other, it's gone. So I've had
Wow.
to actually re-educate myself and go for maybe lesser known brands or others that would be just as good. But yeah, people are just buying this stuff.
You know what? I had this little mobile mic that goes on top of your smartphone that I bought last year for, I think, about $230 as a Shure.
Yeah.
And I decided I used it once and decided that I didn't want it. And I had it up on Facebook Marketplace for months and didn't get. I got all these lowball offers and not much interest in it. And then all of a sudden, a couple weeks ago, somebody offered me full asking price, and I was really surprised. And they came over and picked it up, gave me cash, and they said, "I'm so glad you had this. It's sold out everywhere." And I was like, "Oh, I had no idea. It was just still sitting there." So hey, I made some cash during the pandemic too.
No, absolutely. So, do you remember when you heard, the news and when you realized, we need to do things a bit differently? I mean, it's obviously many weeks ago for all of us now, but
Yeah.
was there a particular moment or a news item that made you just realize that we had to change?
Um, I think, I remember back in late January, early February, I think we all kind of heard about news of this, pandemic going on in China, and not really sure if it was going to come this way. But I remember, and by the way, I ran a conference in January, and there was no news of it at that point, thank
I
goodness. But
remember you telling me at Upreneur
soon,
that it was coming. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, soon after that, it started kind of leaking in. And I think early March, the last trip I took was to Austin, Texas for a company conference, like a sales conference for this organization I belong to. And was all my about 20 colleagues. We all kind of sell and run training, for our business. And we were hearing about this thing starting to, like, companies starting to stop travel, like tell people that you can't travel anymore. We were hearing about some conferences postponing, about a big event, South by Southwest at Austin, which I think attracts well over like 200,000 people, talking about potentially canceling, the Olympics talking about potentially canceling. And that was really big because we realized this was really going to impact our business. And then I remember, I don't know if it was right before that or right after that, when I came back, and the NBA, the National Basketball Association here in the US, canceled their first game and said, or they suspended a game in the middle of the game and then said, we're canceling all games going forward until we figure this out. And that, to me, it gives me goosebumps thinking about that moment, because that to me was like this is serious because we're talking about multi-million dollar entertainment business. They're not going to shut down unless they really, really feel like they have to. And then when here in Orlando, Disney World,
Mm.
multi-billion dollar business announced they were closing their doors at least through the end of March or April. That was kind of a bit jarring and shocking as well, because again, you're talking about what they probably bring in millions, if not hundreds of millions every day. And they've lost so much money from not having that park open. That's serious business. That's when you know that this is serious. And then, of course, all the schools closing and everything else. Like every day, it's like, this is more real. This is more real. So I guess we just have to adapt.
Yeah, talking about the schools, so are you taking part in homeschooling? How is it working where you are?
Yeah, well, like I said, my kids are 4 and 6. So the 6-year-old is in kindergarten. She has the school sends a little bit of assignments. It
Okay.
doesn't take a lot of effort or time, and my wife kind of manages that to make sure she does at least the things she needs to do. And otherwise, I mean, they're kind of playing games and doing different stuff, and I take them out for activities. We're not too strict about it. You can hear them in the background yelling at each other.
It's perfect. We need a bit of dimension and natural sound coming through.
Yeah.
Do they ask you questions? Are they concerned about it, or they're not particularly aware of what's going on? Just happy to have mum and dad,
Yeah, I mean, I think they're happy to be home. We talk about it, certainly like, why can't you go to the science center where we normally go? Or why can't we go? I like, for some reason, I'm weird and I really like to take them grocery shopping. And now I don't really do that anymore. Why can't we do this and that? And so, we talk about it. They understand that it's kind of this, my 6-year-old at least understands it's kind of this global sickness. Everything's closed until further notice. School is out. Obviously they don't understand the full grasp of what it is. They're like killing each other right now in the next room. But I did have a conversation with my 6-year-old the other day. I could tell something was bothering her, and I asked her what was on her mind, and it took a while to get it out of her. But then she just said she was really worried about the coronavirus and getting sick.
Mm.
And so we had to talk about it. You don't have to worry that much. Most people don't really get that sick from it. And I think it ended up being okay. But I think what she was feeling and voicing is what millions of people around the world are thinking, right? So many people have anxiety about this, especially being cooped up inside and just seeing the news and thinking about what's going on. And that's why I go back to stop watching the news and focus on what's in your control, because it causes so much anxiety.
Yeah, I mean, forgive me, perhaps I mentioned that already in this conversation, but my wife and I, Denise and I, we used to watch the press conference. So every day, 5 p.m. in the UK, someone from government talks to the TV, and and eventually they don't say much at all. I mean, there's no information that you can make
Right.
a sense of and use of to move forward, apart from getting more anxious and getting more, I suppose, upset and feeling grief and sorrow for the numbers going up in terms of poor people who are passing away.
Right.
I mean, I don't know what it's like in the US in terms of TV, but literally in the UK, they show you a graph with a curve going up about all the people dying, and you kind of go, "What am I supposed to do with this information?" So
Exactly. Right.
that's it. We don't watch it anymore. I look at the headline very quickly to go, is there a decision that's been taken where having an impact on my ability to travel or whichever. Now, in the UK, our prime minister, who, as you probably know very nearly, got
Yes.
into real trouble, is going to announce on Sunday what the easing of the rules might be. And then after that, I might watch this to know what's happening in terms of business and life. I don't think a lot, but
No.
that's it. The rest of the time, well, this has been a wonderful project for me, and yeah, personal development and seeking out really what is going to help you go through the day and the week better. I mean, I certainly find, I don't know if you're the same, that I with when we were busy, before there was almost before pandemic and after pandemic is going to be a new way of. But when we were busy before pandemic, I would say that probably work came first a little. So the remembering to get in touch with friends, with family, and so on. I would be the first one to admit, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. And then tomorrow became a week became a month, and now I will, say now I'm going to ring and many people that you met at Upreneur, and the half hour conversation sometime is such a a bonus for that day.
Yeah, I think that communication. When I did that, the series I mentioned on ways to be successful to survive and thrive coronavirus, one of them was talk to people, socialize. Have conversations. It's critical, right? Especially if you're feeling stressed or anxious, you need to be able to talk to people. You can't just internalize and hope it's going to go away, or just scroll social media because there's going to be other things that are going to induce anxiety for you as well. I think those conversations are so important. And again, like one of the things I think that's been encouraging to me that I think has been silver lining of this is even though it's called social distancing and we're not physically near each other, I think there's been way more communication, way more socializing, both personally in families and in companies. Yeah, I've had more video calls with family. I've had calls and check-ins with friends. I'm on video calls all day, every day with people in my network or new people. Being kind of in sales, that's what I do anyway. But what's been nice and interesting is I find that people are much more willing to jump on video than they used to be,
Mm.
and so I'm getting more of that personal connection like we have now being on Zoom. And so I think that's really cool. I personally, I'm a very social person. I'm an extrovert. I'd go crazy if I couldn't talk to people. And I'm lucky to have my wife and kids here as well. I know a lot of people are living on their own, and I feel sorry if they are an extrovert like me because I know how hard that can be. All the more reason to be getting on the phone, getting on video calls, calling, texting friends, saying, "Hey, can we do lunch today? Can we do happy hour? Can we do whatever it is?" Like, don't let social distancing stop you from socializing. Just before this, I have a friend who organizes a monthly networking lunch here in Orlando for business owners, and he hasn't stopped. We had it today over a video call. I think it was on GoToMeeting or something like that. And we had 20 people on there, and everybody introduced themselves. We had a presentation. There was connection. It was great. And so I just say, don't stop connecting. And the cool thing is we have such great technology now. The video,
Oh
you and I can
goodness, yeah.
easily connect from UK across to the US. Yesterday at the end of the day, I had a short video call with a new friend I made in Australia. We connect effortlessly and just check in on stuff we're working on. And it's just very encouraging. It's great to be able to talk to people.
Yes, I mean, I really like, the stories of people having using Zoom, for example, to get together to have a drink. There's like a whole group of them. I've organized a couple of quiz nights, where we do movie nights and music nights and so on, and it's kind of so there's the element of gaming, socializing, but really behaving as we would perhaps at the local cafe or pub in the UK, as you know. And I think for me, when I look back at, there will be a time where this will be behind us. I want to think that I will retain some of those newer, better habits, including, for example, realizing that you don't have to shop that much really to be able to cope and survive.
That's right. Yeah, you really don't, right? You can get by, you can order things online. There's just, right. I think that this will change a lot of things. And I hope that it also introduces a lot of healthy habits, like you said, connecting more with people. Maybe people are taking more time for personal development, learning, health. I certainly hope so. I think a lot of people have more time for that.
Mm.
So, let's hope that it changes some things for the better.
Listen, unfortunately and very sadly, because I'm having a great time, we are nearly at the end of the allocated time together. So before I let you go, I'd like you to take part in a little fun quiz, which I actually mentioned a
Yeah.
moment ago. I'm afraid to say there are no prizes, but next
Oh,
time we can see each other, I will have something for me. So if ever I come to you, because interestingly, for the holiday that we booked, as you may remember, for our 20th wedding anniversary, it was two choices: Orlando, so I could go to Galaxy's Edge,
okay.
or Mauritius, so that my wife and I could have obviously a relaxing holiday. So
Where's
we
that?
went. Mauritius is actually on the Indian Ocean, so it's between Africa and India. You've
Oh,
got islands like Mauritius, La Réunion, Madagascar is probably the biggest one
yes.
that you may know.
Okay.
So it's right on the other side of the
Only
world
because
for
I've
you.
seen the movie Madagascar.
Yes. So I very nearly went to Orlando, so it's now still on the to-do list.
Okay.
So here we go. Question number one. Um, you have won a prize, being actually the wonderful person you are from, the best confinee in Orlando. You are able to order a family meal. Money is not an issue. You can order anything you want. So a big family meal. What would it be?
Oh man, this is interesting. I'm not always as focused on this sort of thing. Um, can it be magically delivered from anywhere?
Mm.
Oh,
And
well, in that
it's that
case,
special a prize.
it's that special a price. Then I am going to order some very fresh sushi sent in magically quick from Japan for my whole family to enjoy. One of the best meals I've ever had is when my wife and I were traveling in Japan and happened to be invited by a friend into a very private little sushi parlor, if you will, and had a fantastic meal there. And my 6-year-old daughter seems to love sushi. I don't know if the 4-year-old will eat it, but 3 out of 4, that's a winner.
Excellent. Now, the prize doesn't stop there, would you believe?
Okay.
You are able to invite your favorite band or favorite musical artist to play a private concert for you. Who would that be?
Oh, okay. Do they all have to still be living today?
No, they don't. And it's an incredible prize, really.
My let's see. My favorite band that I would have would be Dave Matthews Band. I love all of their music. For my wife, it would probably be Billy Joel, and maybe we can combine the two. Or the other one I was thinking of that we would both agree on would be the Beatles. So we could always go with that.
Yeah, yeah. It's all, allowed. You're the winner. What can you do?
That's
So,
right.
um, just before, it's time to wrap it up and go to bed, you're allowed one drink, one perhaps liqueur or even a soft drink of your preference. What would it be?
Allowed one drink before bed. I am going to go with a really nice glass of red wine. A little bold, a little heavier. I tend to prefer the California Reds because I lived in California for 11 years. But because
That's
I'm
quite all right.
talking with you today, Pascal, I'll let you pick the very nice, most expensive, money is no object French red wine for me to have at the end of the evening.
Yeah, I will do that for you and send it to you. It will be probably from the border region where I'm from, but it'll be a very nice one. Um, the following day, after having a wonderful time, you are allowed to invite a famous person or celebrity to join you on a Zoom call. Who would that be?
Oh, besides you?
Yes,
Okay. I'm going to go with Gary Vaynerchuk.
nice. And what would that be?
Well, so he's someone that I admire and I follow, and he's got a lot of great stuff out there. He motivates me on a regular basis, and I met him once in person, very briefly, and I'd love to just have a longer chat with him. I think it'd be cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure, having you on Confinement Stories. Thank you very much for adding so much, warmth and positivity. Final question, just to wrap up our time together. This will come to pass, and we will be able to look back on it a particular way. Just wondering, as a professional, as a husband, as a father, head of family, what would you like your memory to be of these very strange few weeks or months that we're going to have to go through?
Hmm. There are plenty of challenges, but there's a lot of great things about this as well. And I want my memory to be that uh, there's two things really. One that's a little bit more on the business side that I turned challenges into opportunities and pivoted and worked on, a lot of creative projects that set me up for success in the future. And I'm working on those things. And the other one is just that I spent a lot of great quality time with my family walks. We got outside, we went to the park, we had fun together. And, I think at the end of the day, when you think about back at your life and legacy and all of that, that's going to be the number one thing that matters. So that's what I want to look back on and remember.
That's wonderful. Once again, Andy, thank you so much for joining Confinement Stories.
Pascal, merci.
Take
Thank you.
care now. Bye bye.